We are living in an age of extreme confusion, more information but less meaning. They lie to you about advanced topic in software development, coding and programming because we don't have information sufficient enough for us to understand and explain those terms to you as the student. We decided to shift the blame and we deemed those concept or programming topics as advanced. In this video, I'm going to tackle TypeScript Generics, which most of us on the internet, we declared it as an advanced topic. And I'm here to tell you that let's crush that noise, let's silence the noise. TypeScript Generic is not an advanced topic. It's something that I can explain to you and you understand it. Very simple, and it's not that difficult. It's easy. Stick with me, I'll make you famous. I'll take you places to see different faces. Let's just jump straight into it. As you can see here, I've opened the website for TypeScript, which TypeScript has been invented or created by Microsoft. I don't really agree with Microsoft on the title of this section. Okay, so this is called generics. I believe this is supposed to be generic functions. Okay, so in the internet also we call these generic types or generic typed variable, which I believe even this website has got that word, generic typed variable. This is a major problem. These type of naming, they make it difficult for you to understand generic types simply because there is a lot of confusion and we say generic typed variables, of which that's not the case. Here is why I think Microsoft is wrong on this one. Let's look at their explanation. As you can see, you will see function right through up until the end. Okay, this is function. We are explaining generic type. This is function, this is function, this is function. Okay, they are saying here working with generic typed variable. You know, when you are typing a variable, you declare a name and you type it as a string. Okay, but here, as you can see, this happened. There is args and it has got a type, even though the type is unknown. I don't have a problem with that, but this unknown type doesn't exist without a what? Without a function. I'm Matthew Msingati, the designer and developer, and I'm here to tell you that don't think of generic types as generic typed variable. This is wrong and it's confusing. Think of generic types as generic functions. Let's proceed. As you can see, this is function, this is function, generic type, there is function, there is function, okay? There is function until we get into generic classes, which is outside the scope of this video. So as you can see, I have proven to you that there is nothing such as generic types or generic typed variable, but generic function. If you can master and understand this, then you are on your way to understanding generic types. Now what we are going to do, let's just jump straight to Visual Studio Code and explain this with example. As much as the internet and YouTube coders, they are throwing a lot of noise around these concepts, you as a student, you are playing a role on being affected by that noise. How? When I started coding, I always jumped into YouTube, and my problem was to look for the quickest and the shortest solution. This was a problem. Quickest and shortest solves the problem, but it doesn't reinforce understanding. If you want to go fast, go for the quickest and the shortest, but if you want to go far, please go with understanding so that you can save yourself from this maximum confusion that we are in now as developers. Let's just jump straight into it. Okay, so here I've got a project, a Visual Studio Code. I've opened a project on Visual Studio Code. What I did, I just commented everything that I was working on so that I can have a plain Next.js project. As you can see, okay, I've just commented everything that I was doing there. Okay, so in trying to solve the problem of getting into the shortest and the quickest solution, this is how you are supposed to learn programming, so that you can understand it and also you can gain value from what you are learning. Number one, never learn programming without the problem. Most YouTubers or coders, they just get into a well presented, well mastered, a built project, something that they have done before, and they will show you how they have done it. This works, and it also worked for me. I have learned a lot from those types of explanation, but there is something that we need to be honest about, something that is missing from those videos. It might happen those developers or YouTube teachers, they are aware of this or they are not aware, but the fact remains, it's missing understanding. What was the problem? Why are you taking this route instead of the other route? In most cases, they don't get there. They just show you this is a YouTube clone, this is a Spotify clone, this is a Netflix clone, but they don't get into what was the problem. In this video, I'm going to state the problem that generics are going to solve. This means that you are going to know this is the nature of the problem that TypeScript generic are supposed to solve, so that when you are alone or when you are at home or when you are coding your own personal project, you can know when you see that problem and be like, aha, Matthew told me that I can use TypeScript generics to solve this problem. This reinforces understanding. On top of that, this will help you to be able to answer interview question. If you follow a Netflix clone and code it through and it works, it doesn't mean that when you get into the job interview, you can be able to answer a question like, what is the use case of a TypeScript generic? That means here you will need the explanation. Okay, so let's just jump straight into it. So what I'm going to do, I've got my pad ready and I've got my notes ready. Okay, now we are going to state the problem. Okay, my apologies about this. I was supposed to have already opened a new page. Okay, so let me just give you a brief about TypeScript. Okay, or not necessarily about TypeScript, but about TypeScript types. Okay, you know, in programming we've got variable names, which are just container. Let's say I don't like to type with red. Okay, so we've got variable names, okay, which might be name. This is a variable name. Okay, and then we might assign Matthew. Okay, we might assign Matthew in this variable name as a container, but this variable name must have a type. Okay, which is in some traditional programming languages, okay, you always declare this variable and give it a type. Okay, meaning that you will declare it let's say as a string, or if it's age, as a number. So I hope you get the idea of types. Okay, this is a variable, but you need to know what type is it. Okay, since this variable has got a string, we can say that the type of this variable, the data type, in fact, okay, the data type, the data type, which is the data type of this variable name, okay, it's string. The data type of this variable name age, it's a number, okay, and so forth. So that's the concept behind types. Okay, now TypeScript comes in to say that JavaScript, okay, is not good in typing. Okay, what does that mean? It means that on JavaScript you can declare a variable name and assign a string. Later on that variable name you can assign a number. Later on the same variable name you can assign an array. This is a problem that the first problem that TypeScript is trying to solve. Okay, not TypeScript generic. Okay, so meaning that things must be typed correctly so that you cannot at runtime assign a wrong data type in the variable. As you know, if that happens, the program is going to crash. Okay, crashing or errors, it's something that we must always keep at a respectable distance as a developer, more especially if it has got a potential of occurring at runtime, because at runtime the user is busy with it, okay? And you know that losing one person, okay, it's a cost to a company, okay? So now we understand the idea of typing and where JavaScript is poor at, okay? Now TypeScript come to say that before you use this variable, you need to give it a type, okay? Meaning that you can say here, you can declare a type, let's say name props, since I'm coming from React, okay, name prop, okay? I'm not going to be as clear as possible here. Let me just move something. My apologies for this, okay? So you have to declare a type, okay, for name, and then you will give it a type of string. This means that you are saying you won't be able at any point in time, be it you or the other developer, assign a number. Assign a number to this variable. As you can see now, this variable, it's some sort of bulletproofed, okay? That means it won't be changed, or the data type won't be changed in the runtime. That will mean that we won't have such errors in the runtime, okay? That means when the project is when it's on production, when the code is on production, okay? Let me just create a new page instead. My apologies about that. Let me just pause the video. Okay guys, I'm back. I've just created a new page. So now we understand the idea of typing variables, okay? We understand the idea of typing variable. Now let's just quickly go through the idea of typing functions, okay? So the same thing happens with function. TypeScript, let's say we've got a function, let's say const add me. Let's just say, I'm not sure where are you adding me, maybe in your friend list or whatever, okay? The const add me is equal to, this is a function, okay, a JavaScript function, okay? Okay, this function has got some duties that it's going to perform, but in doing so it might return a value. Work and come back to the boss and say that I am done. That means it's returning a value, okay? The value that it return, it might be a string, it might be a number, and whatever type, okay? Or it might just perform a task. That means like something like displaying something on the screen, and there's no need to come back and say I have displayed something on the screen, because the person who sent you to display the thing on the screen, they can even see because they are watching it on the screen at the same time. So I hope you see a situation where the function will return void, okay? So there are these possibilities. TypeScript come and say, okay, we need to be careful on knowing beforehand what the function will bring back, okay? So that if now it's 10 years down the line, 5 months, 2 days down the line, and we have changed the developers, okay? When a new developer is about to use this function, which is add me, we need to type this function in such a way that the developer can know beforehand that this function will return, the return type will return an array, okay? It means that now if the developer can know beforehand, they are now getting into the zone where they won't make a lot of mistake. That means they will make less mistake, because they know that this function returns an array. Let's say you are modifying or maintaining a legacy code. There's something that you need to change. You were told that this is a name of a person that needs to change. So if this function returns an array, obviously this might not be the ideal function that you are looking for, because you got an idea in mind or some sort of a hunch that the function that I'm looking for must return a string, because I'm modifying somebody else's name. Okay, this is value in programming language because just like me, I was once fired for moving up and down a legacy code which was bad written. Okay, so I was expected to make miracles and quickly make changes, okay, in that confusing code. Tough luck for me, but I got out of that. Or life goes on. Okay, so this means that having a code that somewhat explains itself, its value in software development, a very big one, because you can take time trying to modify a very small thing. Once you are done modifying that very small thing, you will find out your modification created an error on a different place, and that chain goes on and on and on, and you'll find out that we were only changing the name, but the whole project collapsed. Okay, so that is within the scope of possibilities. So as you can see, now we are all about typing function. Okay, we need not only to understand beforehand the return type, the type of the function that is returning, but we need to know beforehand the variables that it's accepting. If it's accepting some variables, okay, if it's accepting some variables, let's say it's accepting name, comma, and age, we need to know beforehand the data type of these parameters or argument. Forgive me on that one. Okay, I think for now let's just say parameters. Okay, so we need to know the data type of these parameters that we are passing here. Okay, so that is the concept of typing a function. Now let's get to the essence. Okay, let's get to the essence. Whenever somebody is talking about generics, okay, they say generic typed variable. I don't really agree with that. Here is the reason. Whenever we're talking about generics, okay, whenever we're talking about generics, okay, they are generic function. Okay, there exist only generic functions. This mentality has helped me to easily understand what's going on with generics. As I've told you before, that in the internet, this is deemed as an advanced concept. So as I was diving deep and digging in, and I realized that this is not necessarily an advanced concept, but we are failing to break it down and make it as simple as possible, such that I can even explain the concept to my 3-year-old kid or my grandmother. Hence we say this is an advanced topic in TypeScript. Okay, so with that being said, Matthew is saying think of generics as generic function, because whenever you see generics, there must be a function. Okay, I hope you got that one. Now let's get into explaining generic types. Okay, now let's get into explaining generic types. First, we are going to start with something that I had. I'm not a soccer fan. This is just a story that I had. I'm not sure about the truth of the story. If maybe you are a soccer fan, obviously you are old enough to know Maradona, the soccer player, the greatest soccer player. Maybe you might tell me if this story is true in the comment or if it's not. But the idea is, there was a point in time where Maradona was taking a corner kick. So what he did, it was kind of amazing. Okay, he kicked the ball from the corner of the field and ran close to the goal poles, and what he did, he scored that goal. Okay, so it's like he kicked the ball from the corner kick and he ran so fast such that he even scored the goal himself. It was kind of, according to the person who was telling me, the soccer fan, it was kind of not amazing. Okay, it was kind of shocking. It was kind of like brilliant, or something that was spectacular. Okay, what he did, that you can kick a ball from the corner of the field and then score the goal yourself. Looking at that, okay, let's extract some few things from that. Okay, it means that there is a kicking point. Okay, where he was kicking the ball, but there was a point in time where he was also receiving the ball that he has kicked. If this you understand, it means that generics, they are not an advanced concept. It's that simple, guys. You kick the ball and you receive it. Let's just replace kicking, okay? Let's say this is Maradona, this is the field, okay? And remember, I told you that I'm not a soccer fan, so maybe my drawing might not be exact because I don't watch soccer, okay? I don't think I watch sport, if I can be honest. I don't have any sport that I can say I'm a fan of, okay? But I'm just giving you an idea here, okay? Okay, and this is the corner kick. So this guy started from here, okay? So he kicked this ball, okay? If you have done physics in school, this might look familiar, okay? Projectile motion, okay? Okay, so he kicked this ball from here and then he ran, okay? And he scored the goal, okay? Kicked the ball again. Let's say this ball went here, here is that ball, and he kicked it, okay? And he scored a goal. I hope you understand the idea here, okay? So with generics, okay, let's just substitute kicking, okay, with throwing and catching, okay? Okay, let's just say here you throw the ball and you have to catch it. You throw the ball and you have to catch the ball, okay? Throwing and catching, okay? So if you understand this simple scenario, okay, that means you have already mastered TypeScript generics. All those people, they say generics, they are then advanced topic and whatever. Believe me, stick with me, I will take you there, okay? Let me just continue. Okay guys, let's continue. So let me put this into perspective, okay? So when it comes to generics, guys, okay, when it comes to generics, this same thing or same phenomena happens, okay? At some point you need to throw the types and you need to catch them, okay? Now first, before we get into the actual techniques on generic, let me just explain this one last thing. Whenever on the functions, when we were talking about functions and typing them, remember we said if this is a function, we need to type the parameters and also we need to type the return type, okay? The principle behind generics, or the idea behind generics, is that we don't know the data type beforehand, okay? That's a problem. Remember I said you need to understand these things from a problem point of view, so that when you encounter the same problem in your own code, you can know that, okay, Matthew said I can solve this with generics, okay, with generic type in TypeScript, okay? So here we might know beforehand that the data type is going to be a number, let's say. We know beforehand, okay? But, and even let's say this name is going to be a string. We know through and through. But what if we don't know? Let me put the question mark. What if we have a function, okay? We don't know what type is this variable is going to be, and this one. That means the type is unknown. And the return type, it's still unknown. Do you see? Now we need generic types. It's more like treat generic as general, okay? a type that is dynamic in a way. It will depend on certain circumstances. Okay, I hope you understand the problem that generic types they are trying to solve. It means that you don't know the types beforehand. Remember, there must be a function in order for generic type to exist. So we don't have generic type, we have generic function. Let me write this big because it's important. Whenever there you see a TypeScript video, think of generic function. There's a reason why I'm emphasizing this. Okay, this was the some sort of the lighting moment, okay, like the dawn of a new day, when I realized that all the videos that I'm watching on YouTube, they involved functions on generic types. Okay, generic function. So as the coded design community, Microsoft was wrong, all other YouTube coders, they are wrong, we are the only correct guys. Okay, that's a bit arrogant. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so let's say function. Okay, so basically what we are saying here, we're just saying you need to learn generic TypeScript generic from functions. Okay, it's going to be easier for you to learn and master them. So the problem that we're having, we've got this function, we want to use this function, but there are two possibilities. The type that it returns, it might be a string or it might be an integer. Okay, which makes things complicated. Okay, now let's push that problem further. What if we don't know the type? We really don't know it. It might be anything, which is a problem. Okay, with TypeScript you must not use any. Okay, I will do a video to explain that why. So let me write the problem that we have. So the problem that we have, we don't know the type. Okay, let me say type unknown. Okay, we don't know, it might depend. Now let me create a new slide and explain to you what are the scenarios where we don't know the type beforehand. Like how on earth will that happen? Okay, let me write a scenario where it's possible that you might be in a situation where you don't know the types beforehand. Okay, let's get into data fetching. Okay, let me present the problem. Okay, here is the problem that we are supposed to solve. Let's say we are working for WhatsApp, or we are working for Facebook, or we are working for Google. Okay, now we receive the instruction. Okay, the instruction goes like, okay, create a module. Create a module for fetching data. Okay, create a module for fetching data that is highly reusable. Okay, create a module for fetching data that is highly reusable. Okay, it will act like a singleton. Okay, a singleton, it's some sort of a module in the code, in the whole code base, that is responsible for some sort of it's the only one that can be instantiated. Also this concept, it's object oriented programming, but the idea of singleton here is that a singleton, it's the only source of instantiation. If I'm saying a new invoice, there's only one module that has got the right to create a new module. So a singleton, it's that object or class that can instantiate itself. Okay, but the similarities here, why I'm bringing singleton here, it must act like a singleton. It means that we are only going to have this fetch module, only that one, for fetching everything in the entire code. Hence, I'm involving this. It must act like a singleton. So maybe the CTO is giving you some more context on the problem that you need to solve. Okay, so it will act like a singleton. Okay, that means it's going to be the only module that is responsible for fetching data. If you want to change, if we've got data fetching problems, then we know that it's only going to be that module. I hope this problem statement is clear and you understand what you need to have to do. Okay, so looking at this is a function, okay, that we can write, and it's very simple. But now let's say we are creating an accounting system. Let's say we are working for Sage, let's say Sage Accounting. Okay, so if we are calling some endpoints, or we are creating an API call, okay, we are making an API call, the response that we are going to get, okay, the response, let me do it like this. Okay, this is a server, and we are creating an API call. Okay, we are making an API call to a server. The response that we are going to get, guys, okay, this is the response, has got a lot of possibilities in terms of types. Okay, remember, our problem domain, it's accounting. Okay, we're not doing a social media app, we're not into entertainment like Spotify, we are in accounting, meaning that we can make an API call to fetch invoices. Okay, obviously the structure of invoice, it's different. Okay, the structure of invoice, we might have the invoice number. I'm going to be short, I'm not going to explain everything. We might call the invoice number, the customer, okay, customer ID. We might have the amount, the invoice amount, and the list goes on. At least I hope you understand what is involved in the invoice, the date and all those things, who was creating the invoice. But at the same time, if we want to query or get a list of items, okay, that means all the item that the business is selling. Okay, apologies for that. Okay, all the items that the business is selling. Okay, now in terms of items, let me just type here, can I try to be clearer a little bit? Okay, so all the items that the business is selling, we might have the item number, okay, item name, stock in hand. As you can see, guys, this structure that we are returning here and this one, it's not the same. Okay, we can write a function. Let's call this function API call. Now as programmers, we are like, okay, we can create, okay, const API call, that's the name of our function. Okay, it's general because it will like make like general queries, so we can't say get invoices, get quotations, get bills or whatever, get subscription. We cannot, because it has to be general. So get const API call, which is general. Okay, this is an arrow function, this is our function. But maybe as a team we are discussing, what is it going to return? Okay, the other one will say no, it will return a list of invoices. The other developer will come and say no, what if we want items? What if maybe we want subscriptions? Okay, so it means that there is an endless possibilities of the types that this function might return. This is a problem. Okay, What is a problem? Endless possibilities. Now we sit down and be like, Ish, how can we solve the problem? Okay, how can we solve the problem? Because the problem must be solved. And then another developer from the guy who was working for Microsoft, he's got more knowledge about TypeScript than us. He comes and said, guys, I think I can help you. And we sit down and wait in the boardroom. And he said, we need to make the type generic. What? Generic? Yes, let's make the type generic. Let's make it generic. Okay. Obviously, we will give him a chance to present. Okay. Then this is what he will say to us. Okay, guys, what we need to do first. My apologies about that black thing. I don't know why. Okay. So what he tells us first is that we need to have the API call function. Okay. Looking at the Maradona story, okay, the greatest football player, we need to throw something and we need to catch it. We need to kick the ball and we need to score the goal. Meaning that we some sort of need to give the function a data type. It's the same data type that we are going to return to get back. The challenge that we had is that we don't know the data type beforehand. Okay, so we don't know what is it that we are going to get back. Are we going to say, or are we going to have a nested if statement? If the type is invoice, do this. If the type is, as you know, that as a developer you must avoid nested ifs. Okay, it's a problem. Okay, so the guy said, no, what we are going to do, as we are Maradonas, we need to first kick the ball. We need to throw the type. And then at the same time, this is a function, okay, API call. We need, at the same time, we need to run and we need to catch the ball. Okay, that means let's use throwing and catching. So let's just for some reason call this principle, okay, the TC principle of generic types. Okay, so using the TC principle, okay, using the TC principle, we come back to the problem that we had. We said, okay, let's give this type that we are not aware of, we are not sure of what it is. Okay, X. The reason why I'm using X, I want you to some sort of call or refreshing your math memory. Okay, if you did some sort of basic math in school, you will know that if we don't know a number and we want that number, we want to solve for that number, we always say let that number be X. I think this is algebra. Okay, because we know that this is the unknown, so later I will change this X to T. Okay, generally, even if you can say this number is X, even if you can say this number is Y, even TypeScript, it's friendly with that. You can even name whatever this unknown type, okay, whatever, but the standard, okay, the accepted standard or the widely used standard, it's T. But now I'm going to start with X. Okay, let me just do this. I hope guys you are getting there, and please you can just do me a favor, okay, and hit the subscribe button to help my channel to grow. And also, most importantly, if you can share this with your friends, someone that you know that they need to know this. Maybe they need to save their job, maybe they are being asked more about generic types or data fetching, and now they are desperate for the information. Okay, enough about that. Let's continue. So let's say the guy from Microsoft is telling us that let's represent an unknown type in this function. Remember, we said the TC principle states that there is nothing called a generic variable. There is a generic function. Okay, there is a generic function. With this notion, we say, let's say this unknown type it's going to be X. It means that when we are calling this function API call, okay, here is this function API call, here we are declaring it, okay, const what we're declaring. But here on stage 2, this is stage 1, okay, here we are in the client code, the code that consumes or the code that uses the function, okay. Okay, apologies about that. Let's continue. So we are in the client code here. We are saying when we are calling this function, we need to give it a type, okay. Maybe another guy from Google is asking, what type is it gonna be? And then the guy from Microsoft says, we are not sure yet. It can be anything. What do you mean? What if maybe we want to get back an invoice? Then the guy from Microsoft will say, we will provide a type invoice. What if we want to get back all the quotation, a type quotation, okay, with quotation number, quotation name? The guy from Microsoft says, we are going to provide a quotation type. Oh, okay, now we are starting to be convinced because this guy is answering all our questions, meaning that here we are going to inject the types. Types, generic types, if you think about them as function, you've already solved like 100% of your problems with types. So meaning that here we can inject different types. What are those types? The type that we are interested in getting back. We are throwing the ball. Okay, maybe the ball, the color of the ball is black. We have thrown a black ball, okay? Or I don't know, how do you measure I'm not sure the size of the ball. Maybe it's measured in diameters. I'm not sure, not in circumference, I'm sure, but maybe it's diameters or whatever, okay? So we are throwing this size of the ball, okay? Let's say different types of the ball, okay? A soccer ball, a golf ball, or whatever, a tennis ball. So we are throwing a golf ball. The reason why we are throwing a golf ball, we are kicking a golf ball, it's simply because we want to get back what? A golf ball, okay? There is a principle, I think in technology, not in programming, okay? GIGO, I think this is familiar to you, okay? This means that garbage in, garbage out, okay? If you're using a calculator, you press the wrong buttons or the wrong numbers, you get the wrong answer. Technology cannot help you with that. Let's take the similar mentality here. If we want to get back a golf ball size, it will mean that we have to kick or we have to throw a golf ball size so that we can be Maradona and come back to score or to kick the same golf ball size that we have thrown, okay? I hope you get the idea. If we put a basketball, obviously we are going to get a basketball, okay? So here we can throw different types, okay, depending on the situation. As you can see, we don't define it beforehand, but we put a variable that will hold the types. Let's continue. So if we put this variable here, okay, obviously now let's be more specific so that our own examples could be realistic, okay, so that they could be some sort of close to reality, close to how this will look like in the actual code, okay? So let's put here, okay, this bracket, okay, this angle bracket. Then we are going to put the X here, okay? So now somebody will ask, then what are you doing here? Here we are declaring, or we are some sort of giving a type to this function, telling this function that your return type, what you are going to return, is what we put here, this X. We are not sure what is it yet. If we put invoice structure, you will give us back the invoice structure. And then these are the variables, okay, which is these are the parameters that we have. Okay, we had n and we had m. Now somebody might ask, what is the data type for the parameters? Also, there are some cases where we don't know. Okay, then we will say no, the parameters, okay, these ones, let me just erase this. Okay, the parameters, these ones, okay, we have to receive an array. Okay, that means a collection of the same types that we have put in. It will mean that we are saying this type of parameter is let's say here, to make it realistic, okay, we are going to receive the same type that we have given here. Okay, this variable is going to be that same type. The reason why I'm running away from that array, I want to put it where in real life, in practical code, you are going to always see it, which is the return type. Okay, then somebody might ask, okay, we know, let's say this one is going to be a number. There is a type that we are going to throw in here. This variable is going to be that type. Okay, and the overall return type of the function, it's going to be a collection of the unknown types. I hope now this is starting to some sort of make sense. The dots are starting to connect. Okay, we are going to get back an array, a collection, but still we are not aware a collection of what? A collection of the unknown types. I think, guys, I have managed at this point in time to nail the essence of generic function. Now let's go back and put things into perspective. Okay, we have a function that we are not sure what is it going to return. Okay, whatever that is going to return, we need to always feed it when we are using the function. That function, according to our illustration here, it's function number 1. Okay, as you can see here on point 1, we are declaring a function. We don't know what is it going to return, because we always, when we are using it, when we're in the client code, we're consuming it, we're using that function, we will tell it then if what is it going to be in terms of the type, because the type will always depend on certain circumstances. I hope you got that one. Then let's go to point number 2, which is the API call. Point number 2, where we are calling that function. So let's say we want to get an array of items, a collection. Obviously, you know, whatever you get back from the API, it's almost, or in most cases, it's a collection. In most cases, obviously, you might get one string and whatever is customer login or the customer name and specific customer name. I do understand that, but in most cases, you will always get a collection. That's why we have an array here. An array means it's a collection. If you can ask me a collection of what, I will tell you I don't know. It depends. What if I want to get an array of items? You need to tell the function, which is you need to tell the function that we have declared it here. So it means that the idea of generics, okay, it's more like saying create a function that is not finished so that you can finish the function when you are calling it. Instead of saying this function will return so and so or specific type, leave that one. Okay, defer that functionality or that declaration to the calling module. The calling module needs to tell us what type are we supposed to return. I hope that one is clear. Let's continue. So on point number 2, which is here, we are telling the function that we want to return an array of item, a collection of item. What says that? This says that. Okay, let me just use blue. Okay, this says that we want to get back a collection of invoices, a collection of codes, a collection of items, a collection of customers, a collection of overdue invoices, a collection of partial paid invoices, but it's a collection. A collection of what? Then we come back here to say that we will tell you, we will feed that to you. As you can see, guys, now we have solved the problem of what can I say, the problem of unknown types. Okay, we have made a use case where you might need to use where you might have to use TypeScript generics. Okay, you want to create a function that gets information from the API, from the server, but the information that you return from a server will always change depending on certain circumstances. Okay, so now we have just created theoretically a generic typed function. Okay, because of that, because we've created a generic typed function, now we are having a generic typed variable, which is n. It's a generic typed variable. It exists because of this function. Without this function, that variable doesn't exist. This is my theory, this is my understanding, this is my own philosophy or notion, okay, based on my own experience. I haven't seen a generic typed variable outside the context of a function. Generic variables and generic what they don't exist. It's only generic function that exist. Okay, I believe if you can view things from that mentality, you've already solved the pain of generic types. And now, as you can see, generics are not an advanced concept. They are just a very simple thing. Now it's lightweight. You understand what's going on. You can get into the interview. You can present your case. You can even explain in details that this is what is going on. I'm all about understanding, not follow me kind of a teaching. According to Jim Rohn, he said, be a student, not a follower. I'm not a fan of followers, because followers, I think they belong to a religion. A religion, you can be a follower. You just have to follow whatever the religion say. But in terms of academic, we need students, people who are going to say, I don't agree with you, Matthew. If you don't agree, shoot a comment below. I don't have a problem with that. Now, guys, let's continue. Let's make this practical. Okay, so let me minimize this. Okay, and let's go to Visual Studio Code. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, my apologies about that, I'm going to be lazy. I don't think it's being lazy, if I can be honest, but I'm going to utilize a tool that is already there, which is ChatGPT. I'm going to ask ChatGPT to create for me, what can I say, a type of invoice. Okay, to create a TypeScript typed for invoice. Okay, please generate a type, like a TypeScript type for an invoice. Okay, let's see. We will take whatever it is generated and then we will use it. Okay, as you can see, guys. Okay, it's giving us everything that we need. Even it's also supplying us with items. I thought that I was going to ask it for invoice, and then from there I was going to ask it for items, and then we're going to use those. But TypeScript is so intelligent that it provided everything for us. Okay, so as I've told you that, okay, and also the importance here is the problem domain. This is something that you need to understand. Okay, the problem domain here, it's accounting. Because of we were so specific in the problem domain, ChatGPT gave us more information relating to that problem domain. Okay, which is, there's an invoice, there's an item, there's a quotation, there's customer. So all those entities, they are some sort of closely related to the one problem domain, which is accounting. I hope maybe we might be employed by Sage or QuickBooks Accounting or Xero to say that, hey, look, we like your idea of explaining, here is a job. Okay, enough about that, let's continue. Okay, so ChatGPT gave us an invoice type. Okay, so we are going to copy this type. Okay, going to copy this type and go to our React.js code, which is Next.js code as well, and then we are going to declare that type. Okay, this is what we can get. Okay, and then this is item, then invoice item. Okay, so let's check then an array of invoice item. Okay guys, let me just quickly do this copy and paste, and I will explain now what's going on. Okay, I hope sample invoice is not here. Okay, let me just copy and paste because this needs this sample invoice. Okay, 100%. So guys, what's going on here? We might query a list of invoices. The list of invoices, it's going to be this structure. Okay, it's going to be an array part of this structure. So meaning that when we want to get back what was that about, let's see, are we still recording? Yes. Okay, I don't know what was that about. Okay, as long as our recording, it's still fine. Okay, so it means that guys, in our function, which is the API function, before we call it, we need to supply the structure, the type, so that the function can return that type. Which is, what type is it? We've got the first one, it's invoice. When we want to query invoices, we are going to supply this type to the function so that it can return that type. Later, when we are closing this video, I'm going to show you what's up with this all TypeScript thing. You will see the value when we have created the function, where you will see that even if you are a new developer from a different company, from Facebook, now you are working for Google, if there is TypeScript Generics, okay, there is no way in which you can make silly mistakes. Let's continue. So we've got these two types. Type number one, it's invoice. We might want query a list of invoices. Type number two, we might want the invoice items. Okay, we want an invoice amount and who created the invoice and whatever. But sometimes we might have an invoice number. We only want the items. Okay, or not only invoice item, we might want items in general, which is the items that the company has at this point in time. My apologies about that. Now let's continue guys. Okay, let's see, this is invoice item. Okay, so forget about this function movie card. I was in this project, I'm creating a Netflix clone. Okay, in fact a Netflix card. So guys, we've got these two possibilities, and then in these two possibilities, let me just copy and paste this one and just create an invoice, in an item in general. Okay, this is invoice item based on whatever we said to. In fact, what I can do, my apologies, there's no need for me to copy and paste. Let me change this to item, not invoice item. Obviously this one will complain, and let's make this one an item. Okay, we are just making items general. Okay, where we don't want this type to necessarily belong to an invoice. So guys, we've got these two types. Okay, now let's create the API function. Okay, let's create it here. Let's create the API function. My apologies for that. Const API function, const API function equal to the arrow function. Okay, as you can see, TypeScript is happy with this function. Okay, TypeScript is not telling us that this is what you need to do and this is what you need to do. But let's say we are returning something. Okay, TypeScript ChatGPT gave us, which is, let's thank ChatGPT for that. ChatGPT gave us even a sample, okay, of invoice items. Okay, as you can see, this is a sample of the data. Let's use it. Okay, let's use this data. The reason why we must use this data, I want you to see practically, okay, Okay, what we are trying to do, let me declare this data also here. Okay, remember we made some changes. Okay, we made some changes. We have changed in invoice item to item. Okay, so let's just go to our data and make that consistency. Okay, and make sure that everything is on point. Let's see if we don't have invoice item. Okay, looks like we don't have it. Let's check on the data. On the data we have an invoice. Okay, it has got an invoice number, and we've got the customer, and we've got items. Okay, inside item we've got an array of items. Okay, and that's it. Okay, let's go to our type. Our type, we've got those invoice number. Okay, and then we've got items. Okay, that's not a problem. So this is a sub type. Okay, which is an arrow of item. Okay guys, I think we are good to go. There is no clutch. Okay, as you can see, there is no clutch. Then let's say guys, for some reason, okay, for some reason we have made let's say invoices here. Okay, this is general. Okay, this is, according to me, this is bad in programming. Okay, this data, it's list of invoices. Okay, this is how I name my variables. Okay, so that these variables can be meaningful. Just by reading them, I know what's going on there. Okay, list of invoices, or it could be array of invoices. At least that's meaningful. So let's say guys, in our function, as we are creating it, no, this one, this is movie card. Where is our function? Okay, we are here on API function. Let's say in our function, TypeScript doesn't complain, but now what we are doing in our function, let's say we've made an API call, and this function is returning back a list of invoices. Okay, let's see what will happen. Return a list of invoices. Okay, is this TypeScript? Yes. Okay, list of invoices. I was expecting, if I can be honest with you, I was expecting TypeScript to complain, to tell us that, my apologies. I was expecting TypeScript to tell us that we cannot return, what can I say? We didn't tell this function, okay? We didn't tell TypeScript beforehand what are we going to get back here. Okay, let me start by returning a string and see. Return a string. Okay, whatever string, return blah blah blah. Sorry, blah blah blah. Okay, suppose here TypeScript is telling us that we are not supposed, let me cancel, yes. Okay, npm run dev. Okay, but anyway, you get what I'm trying to say. Okay, here we are supposed to get an error to say that this function, we didn't like stated beforehand that is going to return something. Let me just make an example. Okay, let's say we have stated that this function will return void, let's say. Okay, as you can see, we said this function is going to return void. Okay, but now it's returning something. Okay, this is the problem. Okay, if the string is not void. Okay, but here I am not sure. TypeScript is not telling us that we didn't tell beforehand. Okay, maybe that's not a minor error, that's not a problem. Okay, so now when we are calling this function, okay, let's call this function, let's declare it and then call it here. Let's say I am calling this function here. Okay, where I am, I think I'm here. Okay, right here, not a problem. Inside this. Okay, now I'm calling that function. Okay, what I'm going to do, I'm going to open the curly braces. and I'm going to call that function API function. Okay, I don't think on theory we said this is API function. I think we said this is API call. Okay, now I want to use API call. Okay, the reason why I'm taking this approach, I want us to look at problems and we solve them so that we can see TypeScript in real life application. In real world, in essence, this is what you are going to do anyway. Okay, there is no one who just, I'm not sure, write a complete clean code at get go and whatever. Okay, so we all go through this cycle of thinking and rethinking and getting errors and solving them, going to the internet, Stack Overflow. This is normal. Okay, now let's continue. Let's call API call. Let's call it. As you can see, once we call this, okay, it's supposed to return let's just say Matthew the designer. Okay, developer. Okay, I'm used to calling myself Matthew the designer. Okay, the designer and developer. Now let's go to the code and see. Guys, I hope you are learning, you are getting something from out of this video. And also, please, if you do so, don't forget we are in a mission in this channel to get 1 million subscribers in 1 month, something that is impossible, but for some reason we believe it's possible. If you want to know why we believe that it's possible, it's because of a guy called Neville Goddard. He says, an assumption though false, if you persist in that assumption, the universe has no choice but to give you what you want. An assumption though false, if persisted therein, it hardens into fact. Well, in our various beliefs and religion, we don't really disagree in this principle. Whatever you believe, you will achieve, or whatever you ask, it shall be given. I hope we understand it from different diverse religions. Okay, let's continue, guys. As you can see, that function is giving me Matthew the designer and the developer. Okay, that's what we wanted. Now let's introduce a problem. What if maybe another developer comes and use this function like as a number? I don't know, maybe this is what he will do: API call +1. Okay, let's say somebody calls this and add +1, or they assign, what can I say, they assign it to a number. Yes, let's do that. Okay, let's say maybe for some reason what can I do? Okay, for now let me just add +1 to this. Let's see what will happen. +1 to this. Okay, I'm just creating a problem here. Let's see what will happen. Okay, designer and the developer, and then now we've got 34. Oh, okay, my mistake. Okay, with JavaScript, okay, this plus stands for concatenation, meaning that concatenation, it's joining strings. Okay, it's like joining strings, so meaning that JavaScript doesn't treat this as a mathematical expression, something that needs to be expressed. Okay, so basically what might be the problem here in this method? Okay, how does typing or generic types are going to help us? Okay, number one, as you can see, based on this data, let's say I was told to display the invoice number. Okay, this is the invoice number. Okay, so now I am receiving that information. I am a new developer. I am here. Okay, based on this API call, what are calling that function, I am not sure what are the, what can I say, what are the keys that are available in that object, the ones that I can call. It means that I can call this API and ask for INV, let's say. Okay, as you can see, TypeScript is telling me that INV does not exist on type string. Okay, now TypeScript is starting to hint us. What does that mean? It means that what we are returning here, oh, okay, now I think I do understand what happened before. Okay, so what we are returning here, it's a string. Okay, TypeScript is telling us that this method inv does not exist. What if maybe I can put the correct invoice number? Okay, let's say, as you can see, this doesn't exist in string because we are returning a string here. So by returning a string, okay, let me just hover over here. Okay, as you can see, guys, this is what happened before. Before I was saying why TypeScript is not telling us that we didn't tell it beforehand that we are going to return a string. Okay, I think this is called infer. TypeScript, because of what I did, it inferred that it declared, it knew beforehand that this function is a function that returns a string. It's some sort of TypeScript is trying to be clever. If you act in a certain way, then TypeScript will declare you as a professional as a certain professional. For instance, if you act like a doctor, TypeScript will quickly say that this is a doctor and continue. He's not going to say you didn't tell me your profession. If you act like a designer, TypeScript will come and say that you are a designer. We have returned a string here. TypeScript declared this as a string, as you can see. Okay, what if maybe we can return a number? Okay, TypeScript declared this function that it returns a number, so that's why we didn't encounter an error there. Okay, so now we want something that doesn't exist. TypeScript is telling us beforehand that invoice number doesn't exist in a string. I hope now you are starting to see the value of TypeScript. Now let's take this further. What we are doing here, we are creating problems. We are going to create all those problems until we solve them with TypeScript Generics. Okay, now because of we know that, okay, we want the invoice to be here. Okay, we need to tell TypeScript that the returning type of this function, it's not a string, it's what? It's an invoice. We've got a type that we have declared here, let alone the data. Okay, I hope you can treat these separate. This is the actual data, okay, on list of invoices. But invoices, usually in React we call these props. Okay, list of invoices, let's see, const invoice. Oh, okay, not a problem. Let's say this is invoice prop. Okay, and let's copy this to here. Okay, this is invoice properties, and then what is the problem? Okay, this is the problem that we've created, not a problem. So now we are telling TypeScript that whatever that we want to get back is of this type. What type is it? It's invoice prop. Okay, let's copy invoice prop here. My apologies for that. Let's copy invoice prop and go to where we are declaring, okay, which is, this is point number 1 according to our theory. Let's say stage 1, we are declaring it. Okay, let me comment it. Okay, stage 1 according to our theory, we are declaring. Okay, so now we are telling TypeScript make this a type of invoice prop. And here, do you see, guys, here are the possibilities. This is the importance of TypeScript. Even if maybe I'm new at Twitter and then they are telling me to, instead of displaying a name, I must display conversations or chats, TypeScript will tell me that these are the possibilities. You can only choose from these possibilities. If I was told to display a name, at least I am not that dumb. Okay, I can see that here is the name. Okay, so TypeScript is helping us in production. Okay, we are not going to get a report from a user that there is a problem with our application. Okay, so because of we have told TypeScript beforehand that we are going to return a type of invoice, TypeScript is telling us that this is not a type of invoice, this is a string, meaning that the data doesn't match with the type. What data do we have in our code that can match with the type? is the one that ChatGPT supplied us with. So let's return that data. It's this one, list of invoices. Let's say we have called the API, and the API, let me say here, call the API or call the endpoint. Okay, API endpoint. Okay, we're acting as if we have called the API endpoint and we got the data. Okay, let's just make some wrong things. Let's say we are returning a number. TypeScript is telling us a number, it's not this type. Okay, now as you can see, we are being guided. Okay, now let's return list of invoices. TypeScript doesn't have a problem with the list of invoices when we get that list of invoices from the API call. Okay, as you can see now, guys, let's say I am using this function. Okay, I'm working at Twitter and I'm told that, okay, can you display the name instead? This is what I'm going to do. I don't even need to go to the whole code. If I've got TypeScript, I'll just say API call dot. I think I need to fix my computer. Okay, it's misbehaving. So I will just say dot, and TypeScript will tell me. Okay, as you can see, we don't have the name here. Okay, then I will go and ask maybe the CTO or whosoever, did you mean the customer name? They will say yes. Then I will go back and click here, customer, and then dot, and I've got the name. Boom. Then let's go back to the code. John Doe. Okay, this was supplied by ChatGPT. As you can see now, even if in my case, okay, something that is common as a developer that you must not, I'm not sure, it must not make you feel small. Okay, you will forget your code. It's normal. It happens. Like even 2 days without going back to a code, I don't rely on my memory because I know a lot has happened. Okay, in that 2 days, I'm a human being. I'm an uncle. I'm a brother. I'm a, what can I say? I'm a boy to my mother and whatever. So I'm a son to my mother. So a lot can happen, guys. We live in real life. So even after 2 days, I come back without a clue on what I was doing in my code. I always rely on my skill, my clean code skill to be refreshed. So now let's say it's after 2 years, you've been hired by Facebook, by Netflix, and then you will come here and be like, okay, we need to change this too, and be like, no, let's display the email address, because these are the only possibilities that we are there. What if we were using JavaScript? Okay, it will mean that with JavaScript, we were going to pick not even from this suggestion. We're going to feel like, okay, maybe there is an AT name here. Okay, TypeScript is warning us, but JavaScript was not going to warn us. Then when we click save, let's just quickly see what will happen. As you can see, it displays nothing because it's not there. T name, it's not there. Okay, guys, let's continue. Here we were still diving deep into the essence of TypeScript. Guys, don't forget, we want to reach 1 million subscribers within a month. Something that has never been done before, but we believe we are going to make it, and you are going to make that possible. You form part of the entire system. Okay, there is no me without you. That's what I'm trying to say. Now let's continue, guys. As you can see, these are the importance of TypeScript. Now let's get into the problem that we've stated before, and that problem was, what type do we want to get back? Okay, now we have told TypeScript that we want to get back invoice prop, but what if maybe we want to use the same function to get back the list of items? Okay, maybe another developer will be said, that's cool, we can go and substitute. Okay, let me do this first. Okay, let me put it back to that customer. Okay, dot customer. Sorry guys, what happened? What do we have here as a prop? Okay, we've got invoice prop here. I'm happy with that. Let's go back. Oh, okay, we are already on customer. Okay, we are already on customer dot name. Okay, let's put it like this so that we can see the problem. And then the other guy might say, let's change this from this type to the item type. Now TypeScript is telling us that you are returning a data that doesn't conform to item, because an invoice is not an item, which is a problem, which means that we must go to ChatGPT and kindly ask ChatGPT to return, do we have a sample data for items? Oh, ChatGPT has already done a great job. Okay, let me just see, where does this data ends? Okay, the item, it ends here. I think this data also, we have it where, okay, I'm trying to look at this data and trying by all means not to repeat myself. Guys, these are the things that you are going to face in the work environment. That's why this video is like this. I don't want to structure things nicely so that you can get an impression that things in the coding environment, things they are organized for you. This is what you do, and this is what I've been doing in most of the jobs that I've worked in. You always look for things and try to understand. So as you can see, if I can copy this item here and return it here in my code so that it can match with this item, that means I will be repeating myself, because ChatGPT, I would like to believe, has that data inside this invoice. As you can see, here is that data. Okay, so if I want to make sure that I'm returning items here, I can just go inside this and click dot items, dot items as a string. Okay, that's not much of a problem. And then let me choose one item there. Okay, so as you can see, inside an array of items, I have chosen one item that relates to this one item here. Okay, so somebody might feel like, okay, what we did, we've said we are going to return an item type, and really we are returning an item in terms of data, because we are getting into the list of invoices, and then inside an array of items we are choosing one item there. But now TypeScript is telling us that, okay, what you are returning from the API call, there is no customers there. Okay, as you can see, guys, now we are starting to get into that problem. Okay, where we've got one function. Okay, we've got one function. We want to return a list of invoices, and at the same time we want to return a list of items. Okay, now it's like we are in between, we have to choose. And remember, the CTO told us that this must only be one function and it must return like everything. Okay, so another developer, my apologies about that, another developer who has worked for Netflix is coming here thinking that he's the most clever or the most intelligent. He's telling us that, look, on TypeScript you can some sort of have multiple types. Okay, and tell TypeScript, I'm going to return invoices or I'm going to return items. Let's try that. Okay, now we are saying it's going to be invoices, items, or invoices, or invoice prop. Okay, also that one is supposed to be item prop, but that's a story for another day. Okay, or where is my pipe character? Okay, as you can see, guys, we have solved the problem. Okay, we've told TypeScript that we are going to return an item or an invoice, which is, it's some sort of between these two, and you can see it works. What if maybe we remember on the API call, you are going to fetch the data for all the entities which are in the entire application: invoices, items, customers, quotation, what can I say, what else, bills, subscriptions, active or non-active users. That's a lot. So it means that you are going to always put or. I hope you see where is this getting. This is a lot, and this cannot be a solution. Okay. And then also, besides that, TypeScript is telling us that, let's go to the bottom and see. TypeScript is telling the product customer does not exist on type invoice or. Now TypeScript, okay, doesn't treat, what can I say, doesn't treat the return type of the function as, let's say, this or this one. Why? Simply because, what if maybe I can ask for a customer name whilst we have decided to return an invoice? That's going to be a problem. So TypeScript is trying to be strict to say that, look, you've got a lot of options, so this is a problem, okay? Because when you are calling this function, okay, you are not telling us specifically. So I'm always bitwise between two things, and I'm going to stick to that because I want you not to make mistakes. Okay, so TypeScript is correct here. Okay, we can't think that because we have said or, that means we are outside the problem. Okay, or that we are good to go. Okay, so this means that maybe this is my last try before I get into the actual solution. But the reason why I'm doing this, I want you to see the things that we try in order to get into the solution. Maybe we might say we are going to have a condition here. Okay, let's try it. If I have never used, if this doesn't work, that's not much of a problem. Okay, it doesn't hold the major part of this tutorial. Okay, but I'm just trying it. Okay, I'm going to use something that I am knowing it from programming, from object-oriented programming. There is something called a type of in programming. Okay, let's see if this, okay, if what we are returning here, now what we are trying to do, maybe this is a developer from Amazon. Okay, because here we're a group of developers who are trying to solve a problem coming from different companies. Okay, now a developer from Amazon jumps in and say that, okay, we can decide if it's a type of invoice, then do this. If it's a type of items, then do this. Okay, this is just a test, guys. Okay, let me see, can I get, okay, we don't have type of. To be honest, I'm used to type of on PHP. Okay, so here I'm just testing waters. Okay, but I'm just giving you an idea that somebody might propose this. Okay, what is this type? Okay, let's see if type is equal to, let's say, invoice prop. Okay, then let's say, okay guys, as I've told you that here I'm just, okay, I'm just testing if I can be honest. Okay, but with other languages there is a method called type of, when you want to know the type of an object or something like that. But obviously in terms of JavaScript, I am not sure which one is it. Maybe I need to make a video about that. Okay guys, the kids are back from school, my nephews and nieces, so I just have to pause the video and open the main door for them. But I will be back now. Let's see, how can I pause the video? I'm coming back now. Hey guys, I'm back. My apologies about that. So we were busy with that clever programmer from Amazon who think that we can make some condition. If a type of data that we receive is this, then we're going to do this. If a type of data is this, then we are going to do this. Obviously, what I also did behind the scene, I just quickly, since I've already paused the video, I quickly went to ChatGPT to ask, how do you compare types? Okay, like how do you use type of? I have found something, but it was not what I was hoping for, of which it was not really the crucial part of this tutorial. Okay, so I'm trying to say I did also try to make a quick research, but I found something that is very, very complicated. Okay, but I would like to believe there is a possibility where you can check types. But even if we have tried that, it will mean that we have to have like endless if statement. If type is this, if type is that, if type is that. As you can see, guys, we have tried a lot of things in solving the problem, and then we don't have a choice but to get into TypeScript generic functions, okay, according to us at Code Design. Okay, now let's solve that problem. First of all, let's remove this. Okay, let me check another possibility. What if another person might come and say, whenever we call that function, we are calling it for a specific reason. Okay, so it means that if we are calling it wanting a customer, okay, still this is not going to work. It will mean that we have to make the API call. Let's say we have to declare API call customers, API call invoices, API call subscriptions. As you can see now, it's like we are having a different variation of the same API call. So we are out of solutions, guys. We have to jump to generic types. Okay, so let me remove this so that we don't have any red thing there. Okay, and then let's go up here. Let's make some changes on API call. Okay, so we've got this function API call, okay, which for now it returns items, okay, as if we might query list of items from the API. Okay, now what we want to do, as you can see, there is all invoice props. Okay, now we want to convert this to a generic type because we cannot afford to put or for all the types. Okay, we want to make this function as generic as possible. Let's go back to our theory. We said, according to the throw and catch principle that we have created in this video, we need to throw the type. Okay, now let's throw the type. Okay, in this function, okay, we want to tell this function that the type that we want to throw into you, my apologies about this, the type that we want to throw into you as a function, it's a type of T. It's unknown. We don't know the type. Okay, let's also remove these. Okay, this is going to be, okay, this is going to disturb us. Okay, API call, and then okay, unexpected token, did you mean? Okay, let's just go back. Okay, let me first remove everything here and make this a normal function. Okay, just a normal function. Okay, so now we need to throw a type in this function. Okay, and that type, we need to give it an alphabet. Okay, X, Y, Z, it doesn't matter, but we are just telling that we want you to give us back this type. What type is it? We don't know it yet. Okay, oh, okay, now I see. Okay, now I see. I see my problem, guys. Okay, remember, on theory we had stage 1 and stage 2. Okay, the function that receives an unknown type, it's not the calling function. Okay, it's not the one that we are calling. Okay, it's the one that we are declaring. So where is a stage where we are declaring it? Oh, okay, it looks like I'm lost in my own code. Stage 1, I'm declaring this. Oh, okay, where am I calling it? Just a moment. I think I am not calling it. Okay, I think I've erased everything. Okay, not much of a problem. Let me go back. Okay, I'm calling this function here 100%. So if I'm calling it here, I need to give it a type. Okay, to say that if I'm declaring it here, I need to give it a type to say that you are going to receive a type, okay, from a calling module. When any module that is calling you, okay, it must tell us what type is it interested in. Okay, we are going to receive a type. Let's name it a type T. Okay, JSX, let's check. Element T has no corresponding closing tag. To be honest, this is not a closing tag. I am just telling this function to accept a type T. I'm not sure, maybe if this is not how you do it. Okay, you do it here. Fine. Okay, so because we are having some issues with creating an arrow function in this project, to be honest, I'm not really clued up as to why, because an array function, an arrow function, it's supposed to work normal. We are just going to resort to a normal function, declaring a normal function. So with that being said, we are going to declare a function, okay, which is going to be API call. Okay, function API call. Okay, this is just a normal function API call, nothing fancy. And then what we want to do, we want this function to obviously fetch data from the API. Okay, so in order for us to do that in React, okay, we need to some sort of put this function inside a use effect. What does that help us with? Okay, the use effect will be triggered when the form is loading, or we are going to set up the use effect in such a way that it's being triggered when the view or when the website is being loaded from the first time. For instance, in real life, you want to, let's say there's some data that you want to load when the form first load, or when the website loads. Okay, so what we are going to do, we are going to quickly create a use effect here, a use effect function here. Okay, let's just say use effect. This is a React hook. Okay, this is a use effect. Okay, and then here we are just going to pass an empty array. This just signifies that this hook will only be some sort of triggered when this view is being displayed on the screen for the first time. Okay, and then from then let's just get in here. So what we are going to do, we are going to take the function that we had here. Okay, we are going to cut it and put it inside this hook. Okay, and put it inside this hook. Obviously, as you can see, for now it's just a general function. Okay, it does nothing when it comes to the problem that we had. So now we need to some sort of make this function solve the problem that we had. And what that problem is, it's to have this function that will always return a some sort of, that will receive a type, and it will return the type that it's receiving. Okay, and then let's continue. Okay, so this then means that whenever this is loading, this form will be created. Okay, so when we are fetching data from the API, remember we are some sort of moving from where we are in terms of code base. Okay, we are asking somebody else to help us, which is an endpoint. Okay, a server might take time, a server might return with an error, a server might break. There's a lot of things that can happen within a server. So that means that now we need to convert this function to be an async function. Okay, it just means that it's going to be executed asynchronously. Okay, let's continue and quickly do that. Okay, let's see async. Okay, so now this function, it's an asynchronous function. Okay, and then from then let's see what we can do. Okay, let's try to type this. Okay, we want this function to receive a type T. Okay, it's receiving a type T, and then what is it going to return back? Remember, based on our theory, okay, we always so either we want a list of item, or we want a list of invoices, or whatever, but we are always interested in a collection. So let's continue on that. Okay, so we want this function to give us back, okay, obviously, what can I say, we want it to give us back an array of T. Sorry. Okay, for now let's just say we want it to give us back. Okay, let's do it like this. Okay, still it's giving us some problem. Okay, let's say type T is not available in some sort. Oh, okay, now I see. Okay, so this function needs to return a promise. Okay, a promise of type T. Okay, because it's an asynchronous function. Okay, it must return a promise T. Let's just quickly check what is it saying. Must return a value. Okay, not a problem. So this just means that this function doesn't return a value. Remember, we said it's going to return a value, which is it's a promise of type T. This promise means that we are asking for a server. Okay, a lot of things can happen in a server. Okay, a server can respond and it might not respond. It might take some time, and then the internet connection might be cut off. So this promise just represents that in this case. So let's continue. Okay, so as you can see that we are saying we are going to receive this and we are going to return this. So in a way, we need to some sort of return something. That's not much of a problem. So let's just make a fake API call or fetch call. Let's say const data. Okay, let's say const data is equal to, and then let's say await, and then fetch. Okay, so we are fetching data from the API. Okay, let's say the API might be www.codeddesign.co.za /in/for now let me say /invoices. Okay, /invoices. Okay, this endpoint, obviously it might change. Okay, sometimes it's going to be invoices, or sometimes it's going to be items. So we might as well receive it here and say we are going to receive endpoint as a string. Okay, we are going to receive endpoint as a string, and this is the endpoint that we are going to put here. Okay, as you can see, when we are calling this function API call, okay, we need to supply the endpoint. Okay, we need to supply the endpoint because it's going to be dynamic. That's why our return type, it's changing, because it's either we're going to hit this endpoint, which will give us what can I say, a list of invoices, and hit another endpoint is going to give us a list of items. Okay, so these endpoints make our data type dynamic. That's why we don't know beforehand. Okay, that's why this function looks like this. And then from there, let's see, cannot find. Okay, let's copy this endpoint and put it here. Okay, and then from then what we need to do, okay, we need to create a variable const received data. Okay, const received data is equal to, once we get this data from an API call, there is a method which is data.json. Okay, data.json. Okay, let's see. Okay, so this means that when we are making an API call, okay, we are going to get a data, and we are going to get that data as a JSON string, and then we need to convert it to a JSON object. So here we are converting that data to a JSON object. Now let's first some sort of return this data as it is without giving it a type, and see what's going to happen. Okay, we are receiving the data and we are returning it. Okay, we are returning as it is. Okay, as you can see now, the promise, okay, because it's this, we've given some sort of a return type. Now the problem that we had, it's being solved. Okay, let's quickly check first that is this data that we are returning some sort of the right type of data. Okay, remember, this data not necessarily is not trusted, but it comes from the server. Okay, the server might return an error, the server might return an error message. Okay, so meaning that this data, it's not guaranteed that it is a type T because of the error has been like it disappeared. Okay, so as you can see here, if we want to use some sort of the TypeScript features or TypeScript capabilities, we can just check here. As you can see, when we are looking for some properties or some keys which relates to a type, as you can see, we see nothing. Okay, so the idea is that we are not really sure. Okay, let's look at this. This is a promise of any, and this is a promise of type T. Okay, so what we are going to do from here, we are going to say, let's say await here. Okay, we are awaiting this data, and we need to reinforce that this is a type T. As you can see, now we are saying this received data is of type T. As you can see now, it's of type T. It's some sort of, now it's guaranteed that the data that is here, okay, it's type T, it's not type any. Okay, so continuing, what we want to do, since we are in React, okay, we are inside the use effect. Okay, now we want this data that we got here so that we can use it in our JSX or in our HTML. Okay, the best way to get this data from here is to create a variable. Okay, is to create a variable that we are going to some sort of put this data inside. Okay, this is how we do that. Okay, we are going to use a use state. Let's say this variable is received. Okay, let me say fetch data, fetch the data. Okay, this is fetch the data, and then we're going to use set fetch the data. Okay, is equal to, we're going to use a hook, okay, which is a use state. Okay, cannot find use state. Okay, let's see, cannot find use state. Okay, that's not a problem. Let me see some option. I'm going to import this from React. As you can see, now it's working. And remember, all the groundwork that I'm doing here, it's not necessarily related to the problem that we are solving, which is a generic type. But since we are using React, this is the way in which we are going to, this is how we must do things. Okay, so we have to do things this way. So now that we have a variable, a container using a use state that we can use to get that data, we can just go here and set this data. When the data that we have received, instead of returning it, okay, we need to push it to take that data and push it here. As you can see, we are pushing the received data, we are pushing it inside this variable. Let's just see what okay, Okay, that means we just have to say undo, undo, undo. Okay, while we are still here, okay, we have an async function. Let's see. Okay, we've got an async function. Okay, now we are returning this data. Okay, because we have said we are going to return this data. Okay, and then it means that we need to call this function, okay, the API call, so that it can return this data for us. Okay, as we are calling it, okay, let me wrap it, let me say const, okay, let me say const get data. Okay, const get data. Let's see if I can do this. Okay, const get data, this is a function. Okay, let me make it an async function. Okay, when you are making this as an async function, suppose you do this. Okay, this is an async function, I'm happy with it. Okay, and then what we are going to do, we are going to take this function, okay, put it inside this one. Okay, put it inside this one. Okay, so what we are going to do now, we are going to go back to what we were saying. Take this, okay, take this, and then inside this function, okay, inside this function we are going to call, okay, we are going to call this API call, as you can see. Okay, now we are calling this API call function, this one. This function, when we are calling it, it's going to give us some sort of, it's going to return back the data. Okay, but the data is going to be of type T. Okay, as you can see, this received data is of type T. However, back to our basic, okay, we said we need to throw the type so that we can receive it. Okay, so now when we are calling this function, we are calling it differently. Okay, we need to pass a type that we want to receive, and what that type is, for this instance, let's just say it's item. Okay, meaning that this is how we call this function. Okay, Control V. Okay, which is, this is a type. Okay, this is what we don't want. Okay, we don't, it's not an HTML element, my apologies about that. Okay, whenever I put the angle bracket, this Visual Studio Code always finishing things up for me, of which in this case I don't want what it suggests. Okay, so as you can see, I'm calling that function. Okay, we have modified it because now we must tell it the endpoint. Okay, do we want to point to items in terms of the API, or we want to point to the invoices? Okay, so because of our data type that we are passing, okay, we are throwing, the one that we want to get back, it's of items. So here let's put items. Okay, let's see what is this, is not assignable to. Okay, this is an understandable problem. Okay, so now we are done with a way in which we can call this function. So what are we learning so far? Okay, the first thing that we must take here is that now when we are calling our API call function, okay, we are passing the type that we want to get back. Okay, now the challenge that we are having here, TypeScript is just telling us that this variable, the one that we are going to some sort of save this type in, okay, doesn't have a type. It's like we are taking items and we are putting items inside this variable, which is, it doesn't have a type, of which that's not a problem. What we can do, we can just type this state also. Okay, let me remove this. This is not what I want. I don't know why my Visual Studio Code keeps on doing this. Okay, as you can see, now we are typing this variable. Okay, we are setting it using a set fetch data, and we are typing it into this. Okay, everything matches. Let's just quickly check. What's the problem? Items of type promise item is not assignable to a set state this or undefined. That's not a problem. Okay, so when we are calling this API, okay, this API call, okay, we are calling a promise. Okay, let's just go back here. Just go back just a moment. This is get data. We are inside get data. Okay, we are calling this. Okay, this is a promise. Okay, this means that there might be an error, the network might be slow, so it's not guaranteed if it's going to give us data, let alone if what type of a data. But we are just using the internet. The internet might go off, we might get an error, a lot of things might happen. Okay, so how do we solve this problem? Let's try to say await. Okay, await, meaning that we are going to wait for everything to take place. Okay, because now when we are not using await, we are treating this call as a certain as a data type or as a variable that is already there. For instance, let me just make an example. Okay, you see this data that we have here, this data. Okay, we are certain that this data is here. Whenever we are using it, we get it instantly, like we get it immediately. But when it comes to fetching something from the internet, you need some sort of to wait, because there's a lot of things that are going to happen up until it gives you the data. Okay, so let's await. Okay, and then now everything has been solved. Okay, let's go back to generic type. How generic it is, which is this type now, this one. Okay, this one, how generic it is. What if maybe we want to get back what can I say, what if we want to get back the invoices instead? Okay, just check here. This is what we are going to do. Prop invoices. We are going to tell it we want, in this particular instance, we want you to give us invoices. Okay, whatever that we get here, we are setting it to the fetch data. Okay, to this fetch data, we just need to make sure that this state conforms to the invoices. As you can see, guys, now we've got some sort of the power to pass the data type or the return type dynamically. Okay, depending on where we are in the client code. If we want to get back if you want to get back the items, we get back the item. If we want to get back the invoices, we can get back the invoices. If you want to get back the code, we can get back the code. Now let's continue. Okay, my apologies about that. So now you might ask, what's so special about that? Now let's get into what's special about that. Okay, what's special about that? Now in this case, we want the invoice. Okay, that's not much of a problem. So let me save. Okay, obviously here this is just a demonstration, meaning that where here. Okay, meaning that here we are not hitting any endpoint, if we can be honest about it. Okay, coded design, if we can be honest about it, .co.za/invoices. Okay, as you can see here, okay, we are not hitting the actual invoice. Okay, like we are not hitting the actual endpoint, because this endpoint doesn't exist. It means that this is some sort of, there will be an error already that we know, because we are mocking an API call. Okay, meaning that now we cannot go to the browser and check what's there, because there will be an error anyway, because the data that we are receiving here, it's not a proper endpoint. Okay, but this is how we can test whatever that we wanted to test, which is the generic types and how important they are. Okay, let's continue. Meaning that now if we can hit this endpoint invoices, we can get back invoices. Now instead here, okay, if we are about to use, let's say, the customer name, just like before, this is what we are going to do. We are going to go to the state variable, which is fetch data, and from here we are sure that we can use fetch data dot customer dot name. Okay, as you can see, before I use this fetch data, I didn't have to go and check here on this type and see maybe on this data what's there and what's not. Everything, TypeScript is just giving me everything just like this. Okay, just like this. Okay, now somebody might ask what can I say, somebody might ask, what if maybe you want to fetch now we are fetching invoices. What if you want to fetch items? Okay, this is how we are going to change it. Okay, we're just going to take this type, make sure first we're changing the state variable. Okay, there will be an error where here, okay, because now this is not the same. That's not much of a problem. Then what we are going to do on the API call, as you can see, we can tell it that we want the item. Now as you can see, we don't have as much errors as we had, but here we are asking for something which is not there. Then we can just delete it, and then we can click dot. As you can see, now we are starting to get the information for the items. Okay, we have just finished the generic types in TypeScript. Okay, as you can see, whatever type that we want to get there. So meaning that now, based on the requirements that we have given, we were told that we must create a highly reusable function or module. As you can see now, this module is highly reusable. Okay, because we can get whatever that we want however we want it, meaning that we just need to tell it, give it the right endpoint to point to and the correct data type, and guys, that is it. Okay, as you can see, everything is working. Let's talk about this question mark. Okay, obviously I didn't put this question mark, but I think TypeScript has put it for me there. So maybe somebody might ask, why is this question mark? Okay, so this means that in case this is undefined, it's not going to display anything, but in case it is defined, then it's going to display something. Why there are those possibilities? Remember, we said when we are fetching something from the internet, from the server, we don't really have control. Okay, what if maybe there might be an error, meaning that this variable is going to be undefined? Okay, but that is a topic for another day. And also somewhere here in this data fetching, okay, there is something that I didn't consider here, which is checking the errors. What if maybe there is an error? I didn't handle the error here since it was not like in line with the purpose of this video. I'm Matthew Msengati, the designer and developer. If you feel like this has added value into your overall understanding of TypeScript Generics, okay, please do me a favor. I want to hit 1 million subscribers within a month. So that is the next month, the February of 2024. Please do me a favor and support the channel by clicking the like, by commenting or sharing, or by subscribing. An assumption though false, if persisted therein, will harden into fact. Let's hit that 1 million subscribers. See you on the next one.